Here comes a big transfer update for all of yous. Roll the titles. Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on what part of the world you're watching from. This is the West Ham Network. I'm Anton, bringing you some West Ham transfer news. And yes, we are on the 17th of October. And yes, we are talking about transfers because we are West Ham, and that's exactly what does go on, especially as we have the winter window about to open up in a couple of weeks. Well, not a couple of weeks, maybe 6 or 7 weeks time, but it is coming our way thick and fast. And now we've been given further updates. And the first update I want to talk to you today about is this guy here, Calvin Phillips, the race to sign him in January. And there's been a big update. Now, according to several sources close to the club, in particular Claret and Hugh, they are saying that West Ham have little or no money in the January transfer window to sign big stars, big players. Now, they will have some money, but maybe not enough to sign a player of Calvin Phillips's quality. Now, what they did say was that we will not be making a move to sign Calvin Phillips due to the lack of available funds, as well as the quality that David Moyes already has in his ranks following the additions of JWP and Alvarez. And to be honest, I do rate Calvin Phillips. I do highly rate him. I think he is a quality player. I think there's a really good player there. My concern is the injury record that he's had and the inconsistency of game time. And I feel like if you're going to bring someone in, I think it needs to be someone who's at the top of the game. And I know injury records can come out of the blue. Someone can pick up an injury out of the blue, all that sort of stuff. But for me, it's about spending the right money at the right place for the pure quality than just bringing in numbers for someone for the sake of it. And if we were to be even more judgmental in a situation, he doesn't deserve to play in the England setup essentially as well, because he's not getting enough game time, but he's still included in the camps. And players like James Ward-Prowse, who is playing out of his skin at West Ham, have never been called up as well. But reports were emerging saying that West Ham were favourites to sign Phillips as he looks set to depart the Etihad in January. And like I said, he's barely played much games really since he moved from Leeds United a few years ago. And while there was an interest in Phillips from West Ham after our initial sale from Declan Rice, the interest has since passed, and Moyes is thought to be extremely happy with his midfield options, as are we, to be honest. And he's shown his reluctance to make a final decision on Jesse Lingard's future after he spent time training with West Ham. So obviously David Moyes is not just accepting something for the sake of it. Now, Claret and Hugh have also suggested that next summer West Ham will be looking to add to our squad, which we know, but right now the focus needs to be on a central defender, and I'll talk about that in a second, a left back, and potentially a striker, rather than any extra additions in the middle of the park. And while Phillips is a very good player and could have been a valuable addition to David Moyes' squad in the summer or even in January, West Ham don't necessarily need him, if I'm being really honest. Ward-Prowse, Alvarez, which I've mentioned, have hit the ground running, and they haven't struggled really since arriving at the London Stadium. So I think that we do need to look in that area to a certain extent, but I don't think Calvin Phillips is our problems. What could be a problem, though, is that we're talking about not having any funds coming into January. I think there will be some. But we will need to see and address that as January does come. But I did briefly mention to you there about West Ham looking potentially at left-back options. And I feel like we've spoken a lot about this guy, Ian Maatsen of Chelsea, and he could be the future of West Ham's position. Now, we've got Emerson, who's, I think, performing out of his skin and actually going under the radar as being one of West Ham's best players so far this season. But reports are saying that not just West Ham, but Man City are really close to pouncing on bringing Ian Maatsen to the club. And it's likely that he is going to leave Chelsea, whether it's going to be the January window or in the summer of next year. Now, Maatsen has spent the bulk of his development on loan at championship clubs, playing really key roles for specific clubs, in particular Burnley, when they won the title of the championship last season. And whilst they were keen to sign the under-21 Dutch player on a permanent basis, the player wanted to try and establish himself at Stamford Bridge. And as it stands, he's had a very mixed amount of success at Chelsea. He's only started 2 League Cup ties. He's made 6 substitute appearances in the Premier League, accumulating to 84 minutes. And having featured in all but 2 of Chelsea's matches this season, Maatsen appears to be possibly in his Pochettino's plans, but the complication of his contract really does complicate those matters. He is only 21 years old and he will want to play as much game time as he possibly could have. Now, Chelsea officials would want to recoup or get some money for this young prospect, especially that he's only got 1 year left on his contracts. So unless he pens a new deal at the start of this season or quickly coming into January, he will be up for sale because they'll be looking to recoup as much money or get as much money they can for the Dutchman that they can. Now, we've heard rumours that Barcelona are potentially sniffing around him with Man City and West Ham. It's, I suppose, I think a key element about where you're going to go and get as much game time. What do you believe in? What's your pathway to first team football, especially when you're making your long-term decision of your future club and where you want to be? Ian Maatsen is a player I like, a really good long-term solution for West Ham, and could come into the ranks and learn a lot from currently Creswell, who's not playing but using his experience, Emerson, who's using his experience throughout the game as well, playing in many multiple competitions, and then eventually handing over that candle-lit that baton to Ian Maatsen as well. So for me, this would be a really good signing for West Ham, a really positive signing in the right direction. So fingers crossed we could do the work behind the scenes to get this one done. I've mentioned that we're probably focusing, and I know Russ focused on defenders, and it looks like West Ham are putting the full focus on into our defence, and that could be because Saudi clubs are sniffing around Aguerd, not just Aguerd, but Zuma. We're hearing rumours that West Ham are going to try and extend the contract of Zuma, but equally though, we will have Saudi clubs having their transfer window open in January, and we do know that they hold a strong key interest in Aguerd. Now, the thing with Aguerd is money does talk. There's no ifs or buts about it. I think he has been wrongly accused of being our worst player this season because of a couple of minor errors that have led to goals, but I feel like some of those errors have come from other places before they've even came anywhere near Aguerd. We've started off really well, and I think that sometimes we look for a scapegoat, and I'm not going to give that scapegoat to Aguerd because I think he's an absolutely quality player in this geezer. So for me, we don't sell him. We have no interest. We should not be even looking at selling him, but money does talk, and if the Saudis come and offer you a ridiculous amount of money, and West Ham are already working behind the scenes to replace centre halves, because we need to look at that area. There's no ifs or buts about it. We've got Aguerd and we've got an aging Zuma, who I still think is at the top of his game right now. He's been phenomenal. Look at the stat that came out yesterday. No players dribbled by him this season alongside Saliba of Arsenal. But we've got a quality 2 centre-halves there. Then Mavropanos looks like he is the business. Again, he looks like a quality addition. We're going to lose Ogbonna come the end of the season, and we need to have an option moving into the new season. And I feel, in actual fact, I would be looking at 2 options, because when Ogbonna goes, you need to have a guaranteed 4 to play the amount of games that West Ham are playing between European football and domestic football. You need to have a guaranteed healthy 4 players. Of course, you can't take into consideration injuries that come your way. That's an unfortunate situation, but I think that defence is definitely an area where West Ham will want to improve and build for the future. So that does get a little bit more exciting about the prospects of what are potentially coming West Ham's way. But I don't think we will sell Aguerd, if I'm being really honest with you. I think he is still going to have a bright future at West Ham. But like I said, the only thing that would change that would be money does talk, of course. Now, what do you think from the 3 players I've mentioned? It looks like we're out of the race for Calvin Phillips, but I think it's the right decision because of a mixture of things. Do we need him right now for the money that's been spent for the amount of game time that he has played? Ian Maatsen from Chelsea, young prospect, Dutch under-21 international, really good prospect, not getting a lot of game time at Chelsea right now. Only 1 year left in his contract, so we could tempt him into the club as well, and potentially Aguerd heading out the door. You let me know by putting it in the comments below. I'll be back later on for the Hammers headlines. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. We're on the march towards 30,000 subscribers. Yes, you've heard me correct. 30,000 subscribers. Do you remember when we were only on the little old whatever it was? So yeah, we appreciate all the support as much as you can. If you're interested in becoming a channel member, then click on the membership to join as well. Take it easy, everyone, and of course, come on, you Irons.